All right. Well, when they say you're on, you're on. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to ThunderZone Pizza and Tap House. Yeah. No music? Well, we don't need no stinking music to start the show for us, right?
Got to earn it.
That's right. We'll just go move right on into it. That probably went right out on over the air. Aaron, I got nothing. Jim, you're on. Okay, well, all right. Well, that's probably on the radio, but that's good. That just shows
it's iHeartRadio all over.
It's live.
It is the Car Pros.
It's vibrant.
It is the Car Pros John Wristen Show. We are at ThunderZone Pizza and Tap House, getting ready for the RMAC opener this weekend, this Saturday, right here at the Thunder Bowl.
Let's go.
Game we'll have right here on Fox Sports Pueblo, 1:30 of the pregame, 2 o'clock kickoff this week. But before we get to all that, we're going to rehash last Saturday against Grand Valley State University. And John, we got to talk a little bit.
Let's talk a little bit about it.
We'll try to talk a little bit. Do we have to?
Yeah, we'll try to gloss over it a little bit, but really missed opportunities, I guess is the best way to put it. Had opportunities in that first quarter, early on in the second quarter, to do some damage. Didn't get it done. Got behind, and it just slowly melted away, didn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was one of those things that it was a game of opportunities, like you just described. And as you're coaching a team, you got to seize those moments. You got to seize those opportunities. You got to make sure that you're ready to go. And our kids played fast and hard, and that was a good ball club. And I got to give Grand Valley a lot of credit for what they came to work. But I think it changes the momentum a little bit about making one or two of those plays. And then, I hate to say it, but sometimes we got to play better than some people make it hard to play against, if you read between the lines what I'm saying. And so I think, again, we're going to be good. We got a good ball club, and they got a great spirit, great heart. And I think, we got tested to the T. And when you're playing a Grand Valley team, you got to be perfect. You got to be 90% on technique. You got to be 90. And we weren't quite there. We weren't. 80% is not good enough against those things. And when you get those special opportunities to go make some big-time plays like we had, you got to go make them. And we didn't quite make those.
Yeah, there's some plays that were there, had a couple of penalties. I know in the post-game interview you called them ticky-tack, some of the penalties you got. One was on the old wheel route up the sideline. They called a penalty on you. Then you had another play that got down close to the goal line. They pushed you back out around the 20. And then the punt return had a very, very late. Joe and I are watching it, kind of a strange flag, because Cook had it. He makes the move around the guy. He's 10 yards up the field, and the ref kind of goes, "Oh, by the way, that was an illegal block right back there." And it was just kind of be maddening when you see that, especially when you probably saw it on tape. I was like, was it there?
Jim, and Joe, I take a lot of pride in trying to make this game better. I do. I join committees. I try to invest my time, and I very much value the officials in our group. I really do. I just want an opportunity to play on a field that is fair and even as possible. And I was more frustrated after that game. So I got to coach better. Our kids got to play better. And I think there's plenty of things I could point out, but that's over with. And I did point them out to the people that needed to be pointed out. And so I guess where I'm going at, I don't want to take it out of the kids' hands. I want them to go and take, every credit goes to Grand Valley and all those things that take place. But let our kids have a chance to go compete.
And they let them.
They
let them go until the second half when they brought the second stringers in.
you kind of have to watch that a little bit, though, because you'll see those officials again.
Yep.
And so, but maybe you're pointing out what you saw this time will help pay dividends next time. And like I said, the hard part is in 2 games you're averaging close to 100 yards in penalties, and that's, I know, frustrating for you.
I guess I'm trying to be politically correct.
Well, and you can't say that.
And I got to be a better coach is where I'm going with that. But I've invested my career and the way to coach on understanding how officials are going to do it. I don't understand sometimes.
Yeah, and
I think that's fair to say.
I laugh because 2 weeks ago at Midwestern, you get a taunting call that was not a taunting call. The guy was just standing there. This past week, that number 17 was giving the finger to the bench, and he doesn't get a taunting call. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. That's the inconsistency you see for all that stuff. And I know, and when things aren't going your way, it's hard to tolerate that stuff. But that's the hard part.
Yeah, I don't want to this is crying over sour milk or whatever you want to call it. But you asked me, and I got to do a better job of coaching our kids on those fundamentals. But we stress that. And we understand the way it should be called and the way it is going to be called, that we hope.
Then one thing, you look at the numbers, John, I'm sure they probably jumped out at you once you finally got them. But the main thing is you got to be better against the run, against a high-powered physical ball club. They had over 300 yards rushing. That was a tough running back to control. But the quarterback also, Peterson, just makes the runs that he needs to make. And it just puts a lot of stress on you when you're always facing that downhill running game.
Well, I think I got to give credit to Grand Valley. They came out with a great scheme and really did some good things that we had not anticipated per se. And we, to match up against a quality opponent in their scheme that they had against us, that's sometimes you got to say you're out coached on that part. And so I think that we will be much better. And I have to own up to the fact that we could have done a better job of making some adjustments, and we will. And credit goes to Grand Valley they came out really with some really nice things that I hadn't seen in a while, where they really were creating an unbalanced line, but it was with the two tight ends on the line of scrimmage, and we were trying to play bear, and we were just out of gap, and we're trying to get guys off it, but we got to correct it, and we'll be fine on that.
Do you feel like you were looking into a time capsule about 8 years ago of your ball club and say, hey, man, that looks like the Thunderwolves going unbalanced and running, Cam downhill, overmatching people?
Yeah, it's nice when you can hand that ball to that back and he can get to the line of scrimmage and make somebody miss and run through tackles. And we didn't tackle very well. We had a lot of missed tackles, and I don't know. I know what had a lot to do because that back is very physical and strong. But again, when we were out gap and we're running and making sure that we were stressed to the point on that kind of created that issue.
Well, and the running game, conversely, yours versus their defense. They made you one-dimensional, and that's never a good thing, especially with a big, strong up front group that they had, and that kind of dictated pace on offense.
Well, we knew we would have to get the ball out on the perimeter, and we did early on and had some success, and then, the weather for both squads, but we were going to have to throw it to win that ball game, and that front seven's big and strong and active, and
they come at you in waves. They substitute 4 or 5 at a time. Stay fresh.
That's those big kids from Michigan and Ohio, and they've done a nice job of developing them, and they're very athletic, and that's probably the best defense front we'll face all year. As I haven't seen all of them yet, so I would. But Grand Valley's a special. They're a top 4 program in the country.
Easy. They'll be in the conversation. Of course, they play in the conference that's got somebody else in the conversation. So,
right.
That's just like CSU, Pueblo, and Mines. There's always a couple that are just a little bit above, and that's something we kind of joked, said we may see these guys again. Just the way things shake out, I wouldn't be surprised if that were to happen. But you knew going in you had to play that 90% or above.
Right.
And I don't think you did any. Well, John Lujan maybe.
I thought John really came in his own. Had some confidence. We got the ball to bounce his way a couple of times, and we had great coverage. We had great protection, and if you look at the other side is, their punt team gave us opportunity to go down there, and we got 3 points because they dropped it. We didn't do that, and the other thing is on our, we got a turnover there on the kickoff team, and then we got pushed back on a penalty, and then it's just a comedy of errors after you make big plays, and you go, holy smokes, why do like I said, we got to be better coaches.
Yeah, I guess that when you look back, we talk about missed opportunities. I even mentioned it on the air. Could have had anywhere from 13 to 21 points there on those 3 possessions, and you come away with 3. And in the final analysis, that's where you get behind those, and you can't play from behind against Grand Valley because they can just squeeze the life out of you.
Well, it's just you got to, one of our keys to victory is you got to be 100% in the red zone, and you want touchdowns, not field goals. And so we settled for field goals, like we said, and our job is to make sure that we score touchdowns on there. And the keys to victory is our goals on defense is that we got to make sure that we hold them to field goals. Well, that didn't happen either. So, I think a lot of credit goes to a great Grand Valley team, and we got out-coached in that game, and we got out-schemed a little bit. And I would have liked to really see us have an opportunity to play that, on a not a rainy day, and try to see if that might have helped, but.
But this is a good team, and you always stress this. You tip your cap and you turn the page.
Right.
I mean, they're a great team. They beat us today. We got to go to work for tomorrow, and that's been the MO from this team from 2008 till today.
Right, and that's why we're upbeat on Monday and just said, hey, we're going to be a damn good football team. We're going to go to work. We're going to fix our errors and look at this in a positive direction. Those kids went to work and they were good. And they understand we had some missed opportunities, and those kids understand what it's going to take. And I believe we're going to have tremendous focus coming into this Saturday.
Yeah, you talked about the weather. I guess one guy that wants no moisture anymore, Nigel. Touchdown pass right in his hand. I feel for the guy. I mean, he plays. He got wide open and he got behind everybody, but it's a tough ball. The ball just slipped right through his hand. And then Max Fine, who never has dropped. I don't think he's dropped a pass I've ever seen him drop one. And he drops 2. And after the second one, John, I'm sure you saw him. He rips his gloves off. He says, "Damn it, I have good hands. Why am I wearing these stupid things in this rain?" And he threw them away. And he didn't drop one after that. He caught a couple balls after that. But I thought that just showed the frustration that he had. Said, "Man, why are we playing in this misty gloaming?"
Well, I tried to tell him in warm-ups, your gloves aren't going to help you here, gentlemen. And sometimes they got to touch the stove to feel out how hot it is and make sure they try to. And when I try to explain it to them and get slippery, I think they were trying to go in and out. Was it going to rain? Was it not going to rain? And but it was, the ball was wet, the turf was wet. You're going to have moisture on those gloves, and so. Anyway, that was a learning curve right there.
Yeah, it's almost like a golfer. Wet gloves are the worst thing in the world when you're golfing. It's like, why even bother? Just go the old Freddie Couples route and just go with the hands.
And the thing that the fans have to understand, and I know you know that, and I know your players and coaches understood this, is a loss to a Grand Valley team is not the end of the world. In fact, it's a non-factor when it comes to the big picture. I mean, you see what you're up against, you see what's out there, but that game, in the grand scheme of things, is not going to matter, other than to make you better.
Well, it does matter in a sense, Joe, that it helps our strength of schedule very much so.
Right.
And it's also going to be able to help us in a sense of preparing for playoff type teams, and that's the value that we got to have, and you got to have answers to go to work on.
And we'll find out this weekend, because you start playing. They don't get any easier. You got playoff team this week. Playoff team gets mine, so it's going to be there. All right, we come to end of our first segment. We'll come back. We've got 4 plays lined up for John to listen to. 4 positive plays in the ball game. A couple of good quarterback runs, and couple
They're
of
all
newcomers.
punts?
No, they're not all
The
punts.
John Lujan highlight reel.
I
it might
resisted
be all
putting a
punt.
punt in. Let's just put it that way. I thought about it, and I go, no, I'm not going to put a punt in here.
You should have.
I thought about doing all the commentary of Joe and I asking for a call here and there, but that didn't come as well. All right, it is the Car Pros John Wristen Show. We have questions, or actually we got highlights when we come back. If you do have a question for John in our third segment, 719-671-7574. We've also got the Car Pros Hot Mic here. We did get a questioner last week. We hope to get another one here tonight. Come back after this timeout. We'll look at the highlights. That all comes your way next. Car Pros John Wristen Show from ThunderZone Pizza and Tap House on Fox Sports Pueblo.
Fox Sports Pueblo, 1350. This is the John Wristen Show. Let's join the voices of the pack, Jim Brooks and Joe Cervi, along with CSU Pueblo Thunderwolves head coach, John Wristen.
And welcome back. ThunderZone Pizza and Tap House, John Wristen Show. Brought to you by Car Pros. Rock in the house. Rock right on cue there, buddy. Rock is ready to go. He says it's RMAC time this week. When the RMAC season comes alive, Rock comes alive here at the John Wristen Show.
He's awesome. He's a hungry guy.
You about bit your hand off for that pretzel bite.
Jeez.
Well, John, you know the game didn't go the way we wanted to, but I got to tell you, the tailgate before the game,
That was awesome.
It was a great tailgate out there, and we had the hot dogs and whatever.
We had the Bonfilio tailgate, and then we walked down in the
Pesetas.
The
Pesetas had the sausage.
Oh.
Pagano from, Coach was
my
down, and
goodness.
our good friend Carmine Leonardo out of Lakewood sent down some sausage patties, and
Man,
Johnny
oh,
put a
man.
little extra time in preparing them. It was fantastic.
Oh, that Johnny Pacetta, he's a special cook for those Italian
Oh,
sausages.
no,
He was in his element there, man. He was just working it.
I ran into him Thursday night. He says, "Hey, I brought over 90 patties now to do it," and so he goes, "Good luck."
Well, it was funny because Coach Pagano was there, and the tailgate is like it amalgamated into one giant one, and it was really great. And then they were watching the CU game on the computer and under a tailgate, and they were getting hammered. And then CSU was getting beat, and then CSU Pueblo was getting beat, and then
Might as well go tailgate.
well, yeah, so UNC was getting beat. It was just, other than Air Force, and Jim and I are convinced that Air Force is a national team, not a Colorado team. So it was not a good day for Colorado football in general. But but the tailgate, that's why I want to do over this week, because it's supposed to be 85 or 90 degrees, sunny, beautiful. Let's do it again, John. What do you think?
Well, walking down on the pack walk and seeing all the tailgaters and the energy that's created, it was refreshing. It was really nice to see that, even though the weather was kind of spitting and doing. But I guarantee you that's an awesome sight, being able to come down and then you see people see us and they start walking. But that parking lot was full with tailgaters. It was awesome.
And tip your hat to Grand Valley. They traveled well. They brought in quite a few fans.
Yeah, it was good. All right, John, you ready for some highlights?
Yep.
All right, let's roll them. You know what? It's been kind of eye-opening to start this season. We didn't expect this, to have this quarterback that looks like he could run the triple option. But I want to tell you what, Stephen Kroll, he can run it, and the first big run of the day was right here.
Down in 6, Nigel Mitchell in motion. They're going to run or fake the sweep to him. It's going to be a keeper by Kroll. He's got a lot of room. 35, 40, 45. Cuts inside the 50. Down the sideline. 30, 25 out of bounds at about the 22-yard line. Stephen Kroll on the quarterback keeper. They faked the reverse to Mitchell, and he broke that initial tackle. Had all kinds of room.
That was a big play right off the bat there, John.
Yeah, we got to a formation that we were going to put Nigel in, and Stevie has the option to either give it to him or not, and that one he kept and busting down the sidelines. But just listen to that, Jimmy. I really heard the background noise of the fans, and sometimes the game I don't hear that because both headsets are. I got my headsets on, and I got both ears covered, and I thought that was really impressive. So we hopefully we get more of that.
All right, the second one, we got one here, kind of a newcomer to the offense. He probably saw a little special teams action, I guess, in the first ball game this year, but you had him, we called him the scat back.
And with that said, they go empty. Trips to the right, double wide out left. Got a bunch formation over to the right. That usually means screen. Kroll from the gun, takes the snap, looks left, going to have a crosser, comes over the middle, it's wide open, it's caught across the 40 out to about the 44-yard line. That's Quentin Powell. First time.
Yeah, that's QP. He's an unbelievable kid. He's bought his time, and he's ready to rock and roll. He's out of Arizona and out of Pinnacle High School. And
looks like a weapon you might be able to exploit a little bit more.
Yeah, he's coming into his own. He's just, sometimes he just is such a kid that does everything right that sometimes he doesn't push the envelope early on. But now he's pushing the envelope, and now he's getting more looks and trying to do those things. We have the full trust in him and what he's doing.
It's just a question of, hey, even if you know the ball's not coming to you, still have to play 100% on each play, thinking the ball's going to come to you.
Yeah, you got to stay alive, and you never know what's going to happen. You never know what the quarterback's going to see and how it's going to be seen. But, QP is a guy that is a great in the classroom guy, I fully trust. He's buying his time for his opportunity, and I fully value. And we've kind of developed a little personality between each other. I think one day I accidentally ran into him, then he runs into me, and I asked him, I said, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "Why?" He goes, "Because you ran into me." He goes, then he goes, "Why?" So we try. We have a little fun. We have a little personality, and I truly value QP.
That's hilarious right there, I got to tell you. All right, this next run, as you'll hear it, I don't know if we'll hear it in this highlight, but Joe and I thought it was marvelous the way Stephen Kroll was patient on this run, John, and allowed the blockers to get out in front of him right here.
2nd and 10 now at the 44-yard line for the Thunderwolves. Austin Bacher is the running back on the right hip. And it's going to be a keeper. Big opening. Kroll, he's got the first down. Cuts to the sideline across the 40. 35, run out of bounds at the 34-yard line.
And the patience he showed to let his blocker get out in front of him, that's a different Stevie Kroll this year than last year.
Yeah, we had a good little design there, and I think Elijah was out in front of him. Big Elijah Reed, 74, and he come around and he was trying to run, and Stevie's trying to set it up, and he got another 12 yards, I believe, because he learned to set it up, and Elijah was running through there and did a good job.
We had the moxie to slow up just a hair. I mean, when you're running the football, you just go, and he saw that if he just was a little bit patient and let it develop, like you said, extra 12, and it was a great run.
Well, that led to the next play on the Cookie's touchdown.
Right on cue. Did
I set that up?
You set it up beautifully. Here we go.
That's called a segue, John.
Oh, thank you.
He's the back again here. He resets to the right side of the quarterback. Straight drop back by Kroll. Here comes pressure. Gets away. Fires down the middle of the field looking for Cook. He's got it. Touchdown, Thunderwolves.
Great pass.
It was a great pass, but great concentration on Cookie. And the guy really had defensive pass interference, but
yeah, he's all over him.
And Cookie made a great catch and gave us a little life there. And like I said, our kids never quit. Went after it. There was really what helped us is if you go back and look at it, there was no one harassing. Our line did a great job of protection, and so we were able to throw and catch.
Yeah, I kind of think I said, here comes pressure, but they picked it up, gave him that chance to step into it. And even if there is pressure, that's one thing we've noticed about Stephen Kroll this year. He's kind of fearless. He says, you know what, I'm a pocket passer. If I'm going to get hit, I'm going to get hit. I'm going to deliver the pass.
Yeah, he did a nice job of staying in there, and he has a lot of confidence in Cookie right now. They're developing a little chemistry going.
Well, speaking of that, when we come back for our question and answer segment, we've already got a question that's going to touch on Andrew Cook. One of our listeners wants to hear about it. We got a couple others. We got another question asking about you being a father figure. So I'm just kind of getting you thinking in your mind what kind of questions, what kind of answers is John Wristen going to come back? Right now, we're here. We've got our food delivery. We got the tomato thingies.
Well, we got caprese, but there's no pesto tonight, so we substituted avocado.
Ooh.
Next week, we're going to have caprese with no bread, but we'll have avocado and pesto.
I might try that with the avocado.
Well, absolutely.
And the habanero wings.
We have a lot of carbs tonight. I was trying to find a combination that, okay, we took the L this week, right? So I wanted to stay away from that food. But some of these were part of the W the week before.
Right.
Because we had the gastrointestinal.
Yeah.
We're not superstitious at all.
No, not at all.
Well, I feel bad that I, again, missed the celebratory, precursor adult thing we do. So I missed that the last 2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to that in the post-game wrap. So if you want to come on out here, you still got time to get on out here to ThunderZone Pizza and Tapas. It is all you can eat wings. Come on and join us here at the end of the show and talk with us afterwards. This is the Car Pros John Wristen Show. Question and answer segment coming up. We got the hot mic. Remember the Car Pros hot mic. It's right here. 719-671-7574. Car Pros John Wristen Show on Fox Sports Pueblo.
Carol Rickman gave it to me.
Sports Pueblo 1350. This is the John Wristen Show. Let's join the voices of the pack, Jim Brooks and Joe Cervi, along with CSU Pueblo Thunderwolves head coach John Wristen.
And welcome back, ThunderZone Pizza and Tap House. Well, it's definitely going through now, isn't it? Because it's hot and we're getting a little bit of feedback there. So, we're going to get these highlights down for the people in the house that can listen to it. But this is the reason why we record the show, so everybody can listen to it when they get home and redigest it, John.
Well, I can guarantee you that's not on my list.
You don't want to hear yourself talk again for an hour?
Oh.
I go home and listen to you, and I fall asleep to your voice.
Yeah, that's your problem.
The dulcet tones.
That's your problem.
All right, let's go to the questions, shall we? We got the hot mic here. If anybody's got a question for John, I just got a voicemail in. Who's calling me during the show? It's got to be a salesman. That's all there is to it. A solicitor. All right, I know. What? Ken's in Parker this week. Ken always checks in. Why do you line up the quarterback in the pistol shotgun when inside the 5-yard line? I've talked about this before, but that's just, everybody does it now. The Broncos were doing it the other night. Couldn't get it in the end zone either. It's tough down on the goal line, isn't it?
It's tough, and there's times that we're going to go underneath center and do it, but all those situations have been able to go from the shotgun to try to give us some chance to get some run-pass options that you have and be able to get the quarterback out and open. It's a little bit different, but it does give you some run-pass options that we have tried to create.
Is there a consistency thing in it since you're not under center all the way down the field? Does it change the way a quarterback approaches it if he has to go under center and he hasn't been for 6 or 8 plays?
I always worry about that, but it seems like when we practice that, it has not been a problem, and so. But there's times when we're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
All right, Dennis checking in. That's who was calling. He thought we could get on the air, I think, through my cell phone, but I didn't make it. So I didn't stress it that you text the question in. But that's all right, Dennis. We thank you for joining us here. He's ripping the chieftain, but
Hey, I don't work there.
Yeah, you don't work there anymore. He says, Joe, you're awesome. Jim, you're pretty good too.
Thank you.
John, he loves you.
Wow. See?
All right.
We get awesome pretty good, and they love you.
I think that was a PS.
And they love you.
Yeah.
All right, and I think it's just more.
So there's no question.
No, well, he was more or less just calling in to rip the chief.
To rant. We take rants.
Yeah,
We take rants.
Our old buddy finally got out of there too. Latovsky. He realized, this is no fun anymore, so he got out of there.
It's a shame because and I've said this before. One of the greatest things I ever covered as a sports writer, and I covered Super Bowls, World Series, All-Star games, but the most fun I ever had was 2014. From start to finish, that was the single greatest thing I ever covered in sports, and it was a season long. But man, that was fun. That's why we got to do it again, John.
Well,
Uncle Charlie more or less, John, just rehashed the opening segment, talking about missed opportunities. Missed obvious calls by the Zebras. He wants you guys to hang tough, though. He goes, the conference season is coming up, and he's looking forward to it.
Yeah, so are we. I think we got a really good RMAC schedule coming up, and we're excited to start it with Western State here, another playoff team, and they're trying to find some footing also, but we'll talk about that in the next segment.
I had a question asked to me today from a fan and I didn't really know how to answer it because I'm kind of curious as well, is through the first 2 games, have you seen about who you think you're going to see in terms of your players? I mean, are the guys that were going to get looks, have they got the looks, and now do you winnow down a little bit and keep your guys, or?
Well, the trouble is that you're only allowed to travel 60, and I got 147 guys on roster.
Remember when it was 54?
And so it's and so, you know, it's not fair. It's not fair to these kids sometimes on those things. But yeah, we traveled 66 to Midwestern because you could do that in a non-conference, and when we go to the playoffs, it's 58. So. Yeah, we have a lot of guys practicing with the 1 and 2 units, but that's all you basically got, and so I think there could be, because of injury, maybe something else come up, but the reality of it, we're pretty settled on our top 70.
Okay.
All right, listener 6 doesn't want to be known as listener 6 anymore. It's Tim.
All right, Tim.
I like listener 6.
I do like listener 6 as well. Listener 4, by the way, checking in there. That'll be the next question. But listener 6 wants to know, what's the key to beating Western Colorado University, also known as Western State?
Well, the key for the Thunderwolves is that we got to go play pack football, and to me that means that we got to start fast in this game. We got to play fast on defense. We got to start fast on offense, and we got to make sure we don't have any letdowns on special teams. And so, if we do that, we'll be able to make sure that we can control our own destiny. But if we don't, and we're going to be wandering around, it's going to be very tough. But we got to start fast and play fast.
All right, listener 4, the aforementioned listener 4. Is there
Paul? No name?
No name.
Okay.
Is there a receiver from past teams that Andrew Cook most reminds you of? They went in and suggested Beetle. I'll shoot that one down. Andrew Cook could run circles around Josh. Josh could catch the ball, anything you threw at him, but he wasn't really known for his speed. Cook is a burner.
That's a great question. I don't know if we've had anybody that his body type and been able to do that. Kieran Duncan was a special player, and
Kieran maybe a little more physical.
Who's faster?
Kieran might be a little bit faster. I think
he might be listening. So
I'm trying to motivate Cookie.
Yeah, there you go.
So I think Kieran Duncan might be the closest to Andrew Cook. And I started calling Cookie. He never was called Cookie until he came up here. So he's got a stigma on him because of that.
All right, Kevin Schreiber checking in.
What's up, Kevin?
Super Booster. The last couple of years, we have had 2 nationally ranked opponents the first 2 weeks. Will these types of schedules continue in years to come, or can we expect Johnson and Wales and William Jewell to be on the schedule at some point?
Great question. I think
I added those last 2 teams.
Yeah, I don't know yet. Games are hard to find, and so we're going to look into it. I think we have another back-to-back with Grand Valley and another really 4-year with Midwest, another 3 years with Midwestern. So, but those are things that you got to go do, and you got to go play, and you got to be able to go. In all reality, I really look forward to playing these games. But I don't know if it's the smartest thing for you and your program at times. You can justify it either way. You really can. And only at the end of the season will it matter. You know what I'm saying?
Well, mine's is 0-2, and they're ranked in the top 20 because of who they played, Grand Valley and Angelo State. Yeah, no, I think it's this program has always wanted to measure itself against the best.
Right.
And why settle? I mean, yeah, do you want one great one and one mediocre one? Maybe. But at the end of the day, when you've been on that committee, you've been on that region, you've been in those seating meetings. It's like this is gonna stand out.
it does help you. I'll give you an example of Mesa last year. We're losing one game, and or two, one game, right? They were 9-1. They played 10 games, and they had the lowest regional, one of the second to lowest regional strength of schedules.
And they will again this year.
Well, they're playing 10 this year, and one of them's William Jewell.
Yeah, so it does help, but you like to. Maybe gain some traction is what I'm saying. And I thought we gained some conference Midwestern. We got to go show it this week in our third week. We got to go play football in the RMAC, and that's up a much better league than it's ever been. And so our opportunities to go get better are based on our opponents, and hopefully we learn from that.
Well, we're going to talk Western in the next segment, so I don't want to get too far ahead, but I don't know if you're a revenge guy. You might want to chew on that with a pretzel bite before we get to the next segment to talk a little bit of revenge. And we'll leave it at that till we come back.
Yeah, we got that. We got one other question, or maybe an observation, listener 9. I don't think John can really touch on this because it's a little too close to home.
Then we'll do it.
Yeah, but wants to know what's up with Fort Lewis, and do you expect them, I know this is no way you're going to touch this one, but do you expect them to have a football program, say 1 year, 2 years, 5 years from now?
There's rumors always going around, but I think they just hired a new AD, and it's funny, the head coach at Fort Lewis, this guy I recruited when I was coaching down there, Johnny Cox, and so he and I have had a lot of conversation, and he feels like there's movement to upgrade facilities and do all the things necessary, and so I think that's going to happen, and I think Fort Lewis is going to be a part of the RMAC football.
Well, they do everything else so well.
Basketball, soccer.
Man, they're just
and it's a great place to go. But again, you set the bar. This goes back to
you have to get all in.
CSU Pueblo started that trend of everybody upgrading, and if you're not going to join that train, you're going to be left out.
Yeah, we call that the Pueblo factor. That's happened to do that.
Yeah, well, and you're responsible.
And then they even touched on Highlands, but Highlands, I think they'll be all right. I think
Yeah.
The other thing people were talking about Highlands, well, why didn't Highlands jump to the Lone Star? I guess the Lone Star, that's the other question. They need a team, don't they?
Well, the Lone Star has made arrangements with the GNAC, which is the Great Northwest, and so that's their schedule alliance. And so I'm really worried about Division II football out here in the West. And there's not enough teams out here, and then all the closed schedules are basically from Kansas north. And so the only way you're going to be able to get teams and schedules is based on the Lone Star or the Great Northwest. So for us, we got to keep really, to be beneficial, you got to make sure that you keep all 10 opponents in there, so you only have 2 non-conference games. And so I think our league is working really hard on that. But the only way you can get games realistically is if you're going to fly all the way to the Gulf South that's looking for games, and they got it. But it's really through the Lone Star and the Great Northwest being able to do that. And so, like South Dakota Mines, they were able to go get Missouri S&T, and they're in the GLAC league, and so those guys are open-ended. They're looking for it, but they're a little more suited to that. I don't know if I want to go clear to St. Louis to go play, and it's not an in-region game, too. So all those things are a factor.
And could you foresee at some point, if we do lose a team, that you would have to have, since you can't get an out-of-conference game, would you end up having a conference championship game somewhere down the line? Do you foresee that a possibility?
It might, but really, if we were all smart, I would think that the GNAC and the Lone Star, all of us would come up with a plan.
Rotation.
Just a rotation, and it really doesn't matter if you win your league anymore. We guys automatic for football. Now, the rest of sports, it does.
Yeah.
And so there's some checks and balances there that I'm not quite familiar with all the other sports, but I really think if they want to save football out here in the West, we try to make sure that we work together with the open-ended schedules.
All right, we're going to do our part. We'll be here.
Well, good.
We're going to try to kicking along, keep
Always.
saving it. All right, we'll come back after this timeout. We're going to talk about the revenge game against Western Colorado.
Okay.
Since Joe wants to call it a revenge game.
Well, let's call it.
That's
It's
Joe's
better
idea.
it's better than a do-over home opener.
Okay, exactly. All right, I got you.
Okay.
All right, it is the Car Pro. Oh, thank you, everybody. The hot mic went wanting again.
Oh,
Yes.
We'll come back after this timeout. We'll keep the hot mic open if somebody wants to jump in. If not, we'll talk about Western Colorado, otherwise known as Western State. We come back after this timeout. Car Pro's John Wristen Show on Fox Sports Pueblo.
This is CSU Pueblo Thunderwolves football on Fox Sports Pueblo 1350. Let's head to the field and join the voices of the pack, Jim Brooks and Joe Cervi.
And as we always say, the field of play is ThunderZone Pizza and Tap House.
that was a game one, John. That wasn't.
That was a game.
Did you see his look? He's
It's like, what?
His name wasn't even mentioned in that one. This is your show.
No.
Well, sometimes it just you hit the wrong button or the button doesn't fire that you hit.
No, this is the John Wristen Show.
Yeah, it is the Car Pro's John
I
Wristen
understand you
Show.
found an old picture.
Did you see the tweet today?
Old John Wristen
I've never
from the
seen that
1800s.
picture.
I never, because I do one every week, and I do a little more fun than Jim's is like official and graphics and everything. So I googled John Wristen and I did images, and this guy from 1822 came up, and it was Gramps Wristen, and his dad's name was Tom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so when he's from Kentucky, and I was reading this little old bit about this guy, and I almost said, this is how John feels after last Saturday. but I refrained from that, and just kind of did it that way. But
That's a good-looking dude.
it was. If you want to see, go to my Twitter feed, the Joey Cervi, and have a look at the old John Wristen.
Oh.
Now, let's hope you don't look like that this week.
Amen.
It's like the old golf thing. Old Tom Morris
yeah,
and young
it was
Tom
old
Morris.
John
It was
Wristen.
old John Wristen.
Whose father was named Tom.
Wow.
Won the ball game back there in Kentucky in the 1800s.
Oh man, this guy was weathered. He was so haggard. He was Merle haggard. It was bad.
Well, we got before we talk Western Colorado football. I'm gonna pose a question to John Wristen because he brought it up during the break. He asked about fantasy football this week. John, I'm gonna pose a question to you. If you're on a roster, NFL roster, and it states that you're a tight end on the official
Oh, here we go.
New Orleans Saints roster, Taysom Hill listed as a tight end. CBS Sports lists him as a tight end. Should he be a tight end? Taysom Hill from New Orleans, or should we make him a quarterback?
Tight end.
Tight end. Thank you.
You're the deciding vote.
I just lost the rest of them are probably gonna say, all right, vote against Wristen. That's the way the rest of the league's gonna be.
Hey,
Well, they're all lined up with you know who.
Well, I could imagine, but
Yeah, you know who's protesting.
the bottom line is that they have labeled all how many players, 1,000 players in the NFL. They've all been labeled, so this one's not labeled right.
It's on the NFL.
Yeah, well, that's the way I feel about it. All right, speaking of labeling, Western Colorado, John, they're off to an 0-2 start. Tough loss down there against Hunter's boys down there at Amarillo, or in Canyon, Texas. On the road to Permian Basin. We don't know much about them. That must have been a hell of a ball game. It went overtime.
It was good.
Super game, a lot of offense in there. Looks like they lost their quarterback to an injury. He's not on the depth chart this week. He wasn't playing at the end of the game. First of all, what can you tell us about his status that you've been able to figure out?
Well, he's also,
Luke Nethercott we're talking about.
They had Luke Northcourt from
Canyon
City, and he's also the punter. And I think what happened is Permian Basin went after him on the last 2-minute deal, and they got a roughing the punter, and I think he got hurt there. And so I think that could be an issue. And then the kid who started last year, Connor is the kid from Arapahoe that's really had an outstanding career and really a good quarterback last year. I think he got dinged up a little bit at the West Texas game. So that's why they were playing Northcutt at Texas Permian. And now, who knows what's going to happen here and who's going to be out there.
Well, one thing you know about it, they're well coached. You love Jazz Baines. You wanted him on your staff, it seemed like, for the longest time, but he seems to do things the right way. He's got that little California recruiting thing. And
he's got Todd Howard.
And he's got this team, you go up and down the roster, they're all returnees.
Right.
This is a very experienced ball club.
Yep, and they had much success last year, and they did a great job. And they talk about a team that took advantage of opportunities, and they did it all last year. And so I think this year, just looking at the stats and seeing them on film, I think they might be a little banged up, and so they're trying to gain some traction, or they might be holding out for everybody to go play in the RMAC. But I do know one thing: we're playing against a Jazz Bain, well-coached, fundamental. They pride themselves on outworking you. They pride themselves on being out tougher than you. They're going to give you 60 minutes of pure hell going after it. And then Todd Howard, who's one of the best defense coordinators around, he is, like I was telling the offensive staff today, we're going through it, I says, he's like a Rolodex defense. I'm just going to go and polo it out. We're going to blitz. He's got flexibility with all that. And, he does a great job of coaching it and containing it. And you don't get a lot of big plays against those guys. You think you would. And we got to be sharp in our identification of blitzes and where it's coming, where the overhang's coming. And we just got to be targeted right on offense. And then defense, we just got to make sure that we can tackle and make them go 80 yards. And I say that all the time, but when you give up big play after big play, it wears on you. And so we got to make sure we're in our right gaps. We've got to hold the gaps. We've got to just do our job, DYJ. Do your job and making sure that you can handle that. And then put your head down and go to work for 60 minutes. That's all I could ever ask.
Now, one thing about Western Colorado, too, it seems like they're the team that has all the players that kind of take pride in getting the guys from Basalt or from Payon. They get these little small town guys that maybe get overlooked in the recruiting wars, and they end up there. Wouldn't say it's last resort. I think Jazz knows how to find him. He goes, you know what, these guys are pretty good. I'm going to bring them in. Then those guys kind of relish their role, don't they?
Yeah, they maximize their opportunity. They maximize the kids they get. And, we went head-to-head with them recruiting this year, and we were able to only win a few of those battles, and a lot of those kids went there. And so they do an awesome job. I have a lot of respect, and I'm very, very good friends with a couple guys on our staff, and they just do it right. And I'm proud of the success they've had, and I'm going to root for them all the time, except for this game. We're ready to go play.
Well, it's usually a very tightly contested ball game. They like to play physical. They like to get it into the fourth quarter and try to wear on you. And you got to admire a team like that that's not afraid to get into a fourth quarter battle.
No, and they're just, their kids are fundamentally sound. They're well coached. They're not a bunch of cocky son of a guns. They just do a really, really fundamental job of coaching, and I admire the way their kids play. I admire the way they coach, and so it's always been a close battle, and we're looking forward to that on Saturday too.
Well, they're kind of the road warriors this year too.
Yeah,
Joe knows that.
7 road games.
Well, they had 7 home games last year, and so they're
paying the price.
They're redoing the whole football stadium, and so that's what's kind of doing that. They're playing their home games up on their soccer turf above, and so that's kind of been an adjustment for them. They're going through all that, but they're really going to have some really nice facilities that are well needed up there.
So you won't have to go to the bus at halftime?
We won't have to go to the bus at halftime. We're going to have locker room spot.
All right, we're rapidly running out of time. We'll have the ball game for you on Saturday. Remember, it's a 1:30 pregame show, 2 o'clock kickoff as we take on Western Colorado, the RMAC opener here on Fox Sports Pueblo. We thank all of our listeners, everybody that gave us a question. We thank everybody here at ThunderZone Pizza and Tap House, and especially the Car Pros. Aaron Kinnischtzke has been our producer and engineer tonight of the John Wristen Show. For my partner, Joe Cervi, I'm Jim Brooks. For the head coach, John Wristen. Good night, everybody.
Go Pack.